I'm going UCLA.
Welcome to Office Hours. My name is Kobe,
I'm Nate.
and today we are joined by Arthell Isom, the CEO and art director of D'Art Shtaijo. How are you?
Hey everyone, thanks for having me, and I'm pretty good. How are you all?
Man, we're pretty good, man. Just sticking through it with quarantine. You know how it is.
Yeah.
So,
That is the difficult thing.
no, definitely. So, we caught a couple episodes of your vlog, and we saw
Okay.
that you guys were talking about how the media portrays you as the first Black anime studio, and we know that you
Mhm,
guys are so much more than that. And do you
mhm,
want to take a moment to introduce yourself to the audience and tell them who you guys really are?
mhm. Okay, yeah, that's a good intro. I like that. Yeah, first, of course, like I just introduced us, my name is Arthell Isom, and and as you can see, of course I am black, so is my brother, but
Me too.
we're
I
yeah,
as well.
right. We're all born that way. So, but yeah, as with all black people, right, we're way more than that, and the same with our company, right? Our studio, so D'Art Shtaijo, was founded by my brother and I, and also we with a few of our friends, Henry Thurlow, and our company is the 2D animation studio that's located in Japan. And so, with saying that, that obviously means that maybe half of our staff, or more than half our staff, is Japanese, and most of the people that we work with are Japanese. And then our staff itself is pretty diverse, with people from Indonesia, people from Italy, like people from all over. And that's just kind of us in a small little nutshell, like really super really fast. We mainly focus on the genre of anime, or Japanese anime, which is a little different than like Western style of animation and animation from other countries, where it's like I guess there's always a debate about what is anime, because anime simply just means animation in Japanese, right? That's just how the Japanese people say animation, like in their pronunciation. So, but it's come to mean a little bit more with just how people perceive animation, and they kind of separate the two. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's just kind of simply, in a concise, short way explanation who we are.
Mm.
Nice. That's cool. So, do you want to get into like a little bit like how like the studio just came about? Like
Okay. So I've been in Japan now for almost 15 years,
wow.
and I
Wow,
moved
that's
out here
crazy.
initially to work in the animation industry as a background artist, for I like for Ogura Kobo, which is the studio head, the owner of that studio is Hiromasa Ogura-san. He's the art director of like Ghost in the Shell and
Mm.
Ninja Scroll, Jinro, Pat Labor, like all the anime that came out in like the early '90s, and that was kind of just really realistic, very dark, kind of. Pretty much, they all have like the same art director. And when I had seen that, I was like, oh man, I want to work for that guy, So I wanted to just that. I think I was in high school at that time, but pretty much set my goal to just move out here and do whatever I had to do in college. Well, first being college in America, do whatever I had to do to make sure I could graduate, learn everything I need to learn, so that when I got out here, I'd be able to kind of make that happen. And then, so I moved out here and I got a job. That was actually the first job I got when I went to Japan after going to school here. Um, I yeah, started working for a studio, and but I had always had the goal with my brother to start a company. So whenever my brother and I would be talking, some brothers, Darnell, Isom, um, we would constantly just he works in the visual effects industry it's in LA, and he would always, like, we would just be talking, okay, so what are our goals, like, where should we be at this point, where should we be at this point. And his goals were specifically to get in like some of the top tier studios that were in visual effects, like Sam Winston Studios, Rick Baker Studios, all these places, and he worked at all those places. And then now Legacy FX. Um, and so we were just kind of say, okay, cool. At this point, what should we be doing? And I would talk with my senpai here, who, let me see, senpai. there's some words that like I know in Japanese and I don't even know what to say. I mean, we were translating, but I think senpai would kind of just loosely be translated as like I don't know, senior or like I don't know, upper person, like the person who's
Yeah.
above us. But like, so my senpai would, I'd talk with him. Hey, so it's so cool that you're out here in Japan studying with us. What do you want to do? I would tell him, like, oh, I ultimately have my own animation studio. What's going on? And then then we would, so I would, the interesting thing was because Ogura-san, he was always very supportive. And, we would go out and have lunch, sometimes just me and Ogura-san, we would just be talking about like how he started the studio and what things he went through, to even get in the industry and stuff. And I kind of, like, I really appreciate that as well, because not only did he take me under his wing as just this newbie from America, who, so he had to first show me, or they had to first show me just how to paint the way that they painted. But then he also took an interest in my dreams, and he was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, yeah, he would introduce me to other CEOs of animation companies, and he would take me around and just talk about these things. And so I think that helped solidify the idea in my mind that this could be a reality in the future, in the distant future. And so while I was working in background painting for different animations there, my brother and I would just be meeting people and just talking, putting it out there, I guess, right there. So you have to just put things out there. And we met. I met Henry. Henry is he's an animator, and I've been out in Japan a little bit longer than him at that time. I think he's been here now for 10 years, a little bit more than 10 years. And I had already been working in the industry. I met him at a workshop, but it was pretty cool. We just had a good conversation. A couple of years down, another few years passes, and we're just like, oh, cool. Here's this opportunity to start a studio. Like, is it something you want to do? And then just kind of dove into it, And then here we are.
Wow. So it seems like you have a very strong background in anime and animation. What were some of the cartoons and animes that you were watching that inspired you today?
I always have such a boring answer to this. I feel like I should just like make up some more anime titles so that in each of the interviews I have like I say something different. But like so the animation that really did inspire me though was Ghost in the Shell. I actually wasn't into animation prior to that. I wasn't into anime prior to that. I really liked Disney. I like like everyone else in America, range, right? Because anime wasn't on TV at that time. And so, I love just all the series. I think some of my favorite animation was actually Secret of Nim, and which is interesting because I think about Secret of Nim, which I think might be one of my favorite Western animation. It is very dark, very stylized look to it. Like they use lighting really well in that. But so when I did see Ghost in the Shell, which was on I'm not too sure if it was on Anime Unleashed. I think Anime Unleashed introduced anime in general to the Western public by having this TV show that happened. It was just like, it was the summertime. It was just 1 month that they were like introducing anime to America. And, and each day would be like a different show. And I think by watching that, somehow I was introduced to Ghost in the Shell. And that's the only thing that's actually not clear to me because I don't remember, I'm not totally sure if that was on Anime Unleashed. I just know that somehow from that, the Anime Unleashed being there, either one of my friends would have rented it or something, but I did see Ghost in the Shell during that same period of time. And then when I saw Ghost in the Shell, that totally changed things. I was like, oh man, this is crazy, like it wasn't only that, and it wasn't just the way it looked, it was also just the subject matter and everything. It was just so much more adult and like more serious and kind of like this deep dive into some story and things in other animations at the time that I had seen. But of course, visually, that had the most I guess that had the most of an impression on me, or the biggest impression on me. And so from there, I did start watching a few other animations. I graduated, went to college, because I saw Ghost in the Shell my last year, right, which was '97. And when I went to college, I brought the Ghost in the Shell DVD, and I would just watch that like every day. you know, and like, and that was the only DVD I had too, but
Yeah.
so there's
Yeah.
that. But like, you know, it wasn't super rich, so I didn't have like a whole bunch of DVD choices, but like that was the one that I had. But I did meet some friends who are also in the art school. So I went to Academy of Arts. So the interesting thing about the Academy of Arts is it's an international school. So there's lots of Japanese students, lots of Chinese students, just students from all over, Italian everywhere, Italy and everywhere. And so the Japanese students over there, the friends I made, they kind of even, of course, they're going to have like anime takes and things to me, you know. And so then
Yeah.
they introduced titles to me. And then the friends that I made because of that, like kind of circle of friends, they all introduced me titles. And and even at that point, the things that really stuck out to me the most, though, I did like Last Exile. Like I love Last Exile, but Ogura-san also art directed that, and so it was like, which I found out later. At that time, I didn't even know he art directed it, but I really liked it. I was like, oh, this looks cool. And I would kind of I gravitated towards certain um, looks, certain style animations, very serious, very like, you know, very detailed, very realistic. So yeah, Last Exile, I think it's like Ninja Scroll, The Wings of Onamias, and things like that. And I and then later I was like, oh shoot, man, these are all like by Ogura-san. And then I was like looking up, you know, everything he did that from then on. And then that's kind of what really got me into anime. So I'm not like so I don't have like other titles though, because I didn't actually watch a lot of other things, because I was never, I guess the difference between me and even Henry and like other people here, I wasn't interested in the characters of animation. Like at that, I mean, there are cool characters, and I hope they create cool characters that people are interested in. But that wasn't really what drew me. I always felt that the environment was just as important as a character. And even I remember having conversations in the Academy of Arts with like the art department head and students, and you know, I would be arguing because at that time, like concept art and matte painting stuff wasn't big in America, so there was no courses about background design, you know, games, and none of that stuff existed. So I was like, even in the one a background class didn't come, wasn't even introduced into our curriculum until like my last year of college there. So prior to that, there was like landscape. I had to take like landscape painting classes, and you know, still life, which is pretty cool. But I think that obviously helped me now. Um, but I remember the conversations just always me arguing with like a whole room of like character designers who would say, you know, characters are cool and this is this, and without characters, there's no story. And I would be saying, well, it's the opposite, because if you just put a character on a white screen, then there is nothing. You know, there's nothing. There's just a character running. It's like the environment, you know, the background tells us so much in that 1 second, 2 seconds that we see on the screen. Who is this character? You know, where does he live? What is the culture? What is the environment? What is the history? What does he like, or what does she like? What do they like? You know, and all of that just with one picture. You know, and I like that. And so that really drew me into anime.
I feel like a lot of people do take for granted the storytelling though, because you know, sometimes, especially now in the United States, a lot of people are drawn to anime and they're drawn to the characters. Like you have stan accounts for, you know, Gon, you have stan accounts for Goku and things like that, but they don't see that the storytelling is what is kind of weaving the character and making that character so prominent inside of you.
That's actually a really good point that you're making there, because it's and I mean, I don't know, perhaps that's the strength of story, because a really good story should just kind of draw us in, so much so that it's like it almost kind of becomes secondary, right? Because that really is what's drawing us into it. And I think there are some stories even in Japan too, so I'm not going to just only blame the West, but there are some animations that come out and anime that come out where they're only focused on character design, but then the story is just, you know, it's so random and it's so you know, it's just displaced, and we can't even even though the character looks so cool, that we can't even get drawn into it. But then but it really is a culmination of all those things, like just great storytelling, great arc, you know, this character's changing and doing all this that really makes us like them. But you know, there's always, and I try my best to always just stay in the middle of everything, and so you know, you're gonna find stories too where the story is just garbage, but the character looks so cool that people watch it anyway, right? You're like, oh, the character. But
that's
you know,
very
but
true.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So, just going into like your early career as a background artist, like, can you tell us a little bit like how that was?
Okay, yeah, that was crazy, and just the experience of it was crazy. Oh no, what happened yeah, you were playing all by yourself, and now you're mad. Like, don't tell them about backgrounds, Dad. Don't tell them.
We don't want to know. We don't want the fans to know.
Yeah.
It's a family secret.
Weapon. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy because I had to, my first stint even within anime in general, or even within this what do you call it, the industry, was actually in Japan. Like, I had never worked in animation in America. I just graduated from college, and then I moved straight to Japan, and then went to school here and started working. So as a background artist, I didn't know. Okay, I'm gonna kind of like rock and sleep a little bit, but I'm gonna still talk, just not on the screen. Sorry about that. The things that was crazy to me was just the cultural differences. Like, it was just so different. And I didn't know what could be different from the workforce, like from the work perspective, only because it was my first job, which now, like, they would say hindsight is 2020. I think because I didn't work in America, I didn't really, I mean, I had normal jobs in America, like part-time jobs at, different places, but not in the industry. So I had nothing to compare it to, so to me, like, working 36-hour days was normal, right? Because I was like, well, all my senpai are doing it, all the Japanese people are doing it. I guess I got to do that too, And so, and I remember the one thing that I remember the most was, where at that one of the things that really also pushed me to come to Japan wasn't only just the animation of Ghost in the Shell. It was also because at Ogura Kobo, so at that studio that I worked for, they were still painting by hand. And I remember that being super important to me because at that time, Disney had closed down their studios. They had closed the 2D departments and everything, and they were only doing 3D animation. All of America was shifting to 3D animation. And, now we're like 15 years later, and then 3D animation is the dominant thing that you see on TV in America. But like, and I was kind of opposed to that. I guess I'm kind of a, classicalist, traditionalist in that sense, where I really wanted to paint, right? I had already, my parents paid, for my college, and I learned to paint, and I was just like, I want to keep painting. And so at the studio I worked for, we still painted on paper. Actually, all the backgrounds that we painted my first 5 years here in Japan painting was on paper. And so because we were painting on paper, of course it takes much, everything just takes longer, right? You have to use paint, and if you make a mistake, you have to essentially throw the paper away, start over again, like, and so that was fun to me, like learning how to, just apply paint in a way that it will, come across within a very short period of time, but it still get all the different aspects necessary to get it to look realistic. And I remember just kind of, my senpai would always be just mad about something, right? Like, they would be angry at me because I was still trying to just learn, right? And they're only speaking Japanese. No one spoke English, and so certain things would just get like lost in translation, right? Because like I think they would ask me to do something super simple where they might be. I mean, I can't even think of a good example, but I do remember one thing. So the first animation I worked on was Triple X Holic. That was the first one actually that I got credited for working on. And before, like after my training had finished. And I remember my senpai saying to me, oh, whenever we have a scene, you have to go and look through our archives for that animation. So for example, like, if I'm working on episode 4, episode 5, I should be looking at episode 1, 2, and 3 to see how these backgrounds are painted. And I should essentially copy the same lighting, the same everything, right? Because it's the same location. I kind of misunderstood that to mean like, oh, cool, just look through the archives and look for things that you like and just paint this background like that, So and like and so I would be painting like these backgrounds that, looked pretty realistic, but they were just off base, right? Because they didn't match the previous episodes.
Yeah.
But they would be angry about it not matching, and I didn't understand why it wasn't matching. I'm like, oh, but you told me to just look through the archives. I did. I like this, and so it was a lot of things like that where they were trying to figure out how do they teach a foreigner, right? Like a person in English, how to understand what, and then, so it's just constantly going back and forth. But that was fun. And I worked on many things. I worked on Naruto, both the TV series, all the films. We worked on Black Rock Shooter.
One Piece, right? One Piece and Attack on Titan.
So the Attack on Titan, One Piece, those are things that my company has worked on now. So working on those
Okay.
things now. Yeah. So
Ah,
and
okay.
earlier I wasn't working on those yet. I did like Tokyo. Yeah, like Tokyo Ghoul was also now and a recent, and
Mm.
yeah, like Fire Force and all those things are all recent things that we're working on now. And at that time, we were still working on yeah, like lots of titles that you guys might not have seen. I'm not sure. Like I worked on one big thing for Anpanman, and Conan. I worked on the Detective Conan like movie. I worked on a lot of movies, and uh, and actually one of the first films I worked on, which was Naruto, that was the first time I actually got to paint like a whole sequence, like a whole scene by myself. So it was like 60 paintings. And all like this is one when he goes into prison. So all the whole prison sequence I painted by myself. And I was kind of really
Oh
happy about
wow.
that because that was a point where like my senpai had finally trusted me to like choose the color and then essentially just paint everything the way that I felt how it should be painted. They knew that it would match the rest of the film. So I do remember that. I'm just kind of rambling on, so yeah, you guys just shooting the question whenever you have to.
That's
No, all
cool.
good, all good. Oh, so it seems like oh, hold on one second. Oh yeah. So it seems like, what is it like working on such like a big anime compared to the smaller ones?
um, so with the TV series, so you mean big titles, or do you mean like a feature film as opposed to like a series?
Like a title that, expands to like the Western side, so like Naruto
Okay,
and things like that.
yeah. So I was kind of lucky because I don't know if it's luck, but like the studio that I worked for, like I chose to work for Ogura-san, right? And so he was art director for all Production IG's titles. And Production IG is one of the largest studios in Japan. So pretty much everything they do is large titles, right? And so I was kind of
Mm,
like, it's kind of like when you go and work for Disney or something in America, where then, you're kind of essentially just at the top, right? And you're just only working on the biggest titles. And so I was lucky, right? Because that wasn't why I chose to work for Oda Kobo. I just wanted to work for him because I just thought that he was great. And then I was lucky enough, I guess, just because he was great, that all the things we got to work on was also great. There's just
Yeah.
famous titles, and so the um yeah, so at that time when I was working on it, it never dawned on me. I never thought about it. Like it was just more like, oh, cool, okay, I'm working on it. So okay, like I was just so focused on learning how to paint. And so it's just like, okay, like what do I have to do? Let me just make sure this is right. I never even thought about just like what these characters, like what their cultural meaning is to just anime in general and things. And even now, like working on like One Piece and all these things, we're always still putting the craft first, and it's really important. Although, like my Stafford, like he's a crazy fanboy. He always wants to work on. He loved One Piece. He wants to work on it. So there is that too. Some of my staff, they're just so hardcore about certain titles, and now we've gotten to the point where we can kind of call certain studios and just like, oh, can we work on this? And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, of course. And so, like those titles, it is fun to work on things that's big and popular, and people like it because there's that conversation that's always going on where uh like you can just kind of talk to people and they know what you've seen, whereas I guess if you're working on something smaller, which our studio also does those things too, where we do like our indie projects and things like that, where we people just don't know about it so much, and so you can't really have a conversation about it, even though the quality of the work might still be the same, right? Like, and the storyline might be great, but because it's just a smaller known name or lesser known name, um, people just don't know about it. So I think that's the biggest difference. Um, and even like now, right, like of course we worked on the Weeknd's newest music video for Snow Child. So he's just like a major artist, and so like the conversation just moves, and you can see how fast the conversation moves for something that's major as opposed to something that's not. But, but I think that's like the major difference. I mean, like, and if I was to talk about technically what's different, there are responsibility. There's a responsibility to the fans. There's a like responsibility to the world, to the character, which I think I focus more on those things as opposed to kind of just like, oh, cool, I'm working on something I like. It's more like, okay, now they're working on this title, which is so significant to people. They're gonna come to expect certain things.
Yeah.
And so, but both like the way it looks by what the characters are doing, like how they move and the way that the world looks. All those things are super important to make sure that we really are on point. And so it's a little bit more pressure because you still have the same amount of time, right? Like if we're only like, well, Japan we have like these crazy schedules, and so like if we have to get an episode done, and it's like, okay, cool, we only have like 2 weeks left, like get these 300 backgrounds done or something, for example. Like we, even though you have only 2 weeks or a week, or whatever, to get this stuff done, it still needs to meet the quality line that all the previous, episodes have made. Whereas like if you're working on a small title, you might only be on episode 2, and that's the only episode people's ever seen. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters, but like you can kind of just you can fudge things, woo, and people won't know, kind of thing. Whereas with a major title, if you fudge something and you mess up, everybody's gonna know.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, like angry forum just ripping you apart.
Yeah, yeah. You're gonna have all the angry fans, who are just gonna be like, this is not the character we're talking about, something like that. But yeah, so I think those are maybe the two areas that I can kind of think of that are just different.
Cool. You kind of touched on, you said like working like with the Weeknd on Snow Child, and like that's like being something like your studio has done. Like, can you talk about just like at your current studio now, like what are some of your like favorite like accomplishments that you guys, or favorite things you got to work on?
Yeah, like so. I mean, it's crazy because I don't know. I'm like the worst person to ask this question. So actually, and I realize I think we touched on this a little bit. I kind of still haven't got to the point where I have something that's favorite, because I always view all of my work as like I'm still learning, and we're still trying to. And even for our company, like I think our company is still growing, and there's things that we're trying to achieve, and so I kind of view things that way, and so I haven't gotten to the thing where I can say this is my favorite, because like as an artist, there's always gonna be parts of our productions where I felt like we can just do more, and I wanted to do more but couldn't for whatever reason, and those things really affect me. So I'm just always like I haven't learned how to just move past the small things yet, and so so yeah, I don't know. But for our studio, if I was to kind of just echo some of the things that Henry or some of our animators and stuff say, so they of course loved working on many things, but they loved working on like Sound and Fury, because that was our first time to do something, where we got to be in total control over the production, and so everything that we see on the screen was kind of our own ideas. And of course they like working on One Piece um, and Tokyo Ghoul because of the darkness of it. Like we love like more adult oriented things, and like and I think that's kind of, so that was one of the favorites, I think. Yeah, I don't know if I have a better answer for you guys, but that's it.
So, what future projects can you say that you have in store for 2020 and on?
So that's always the hardest thing, right? 'Cause we can never tell you guys exactly what we're working on. So right now, but I can give you like subject matter. So for example, we're working on a new commercial that's coming out, and it's a sports brand thing. I think that would be interesting because it has a lot of it touches on a lot of things that's happening now in this kind of, even though it's a commercial, and I think it's interesting. We're working on a feature film here in Japan, which is actually that has I think that's coming out and should be announced soon. We're working on and we're always working on lots of TV series. Actually working with Toei on something now, but that hasn't been announced, so I can't really tell you. And it's interesting because it's a really cool project, and but there's no news on it at all, even though they've gotten pretty far in production. So that's going to be cool. And we're also, of course, always trying to do our own things, and so we've been in talks with different studios or with different companies to try to bring some of our own stories to which is something that I think we really want to do more than anything else. And so just bring new characters, new worlds, and stuff like that to the screen. Either we haven't decided on which way it'll be, either feature or series, but yeah. So that's kind of things that will be coming up.
So it's cool. So you said you've been based in Japan for the past like 15 years, correct?
Yes.
So like, what do you
That's
see? I guess
wow.
like,
It's like a long time.
wow, and so like like you've kind of like spent a good part of your career just like creating like environments, creating worlds that like these characters get to live in. So like I guess like what would you say is like what like have you learned about just like the world from like your experiences creating worlds and creating environments?
That's an interesting question. I like that question. I think because I've learned so much about the world by that, and it's weird because um, and it might even be just the type of animations that Japan does, where it really like a lot of the animations they do are based off of real world and real histories, and so whenever we're painting backgrounds, I guess like America, it'd be comparative to like working on feature films in America, where you have to do a lot of research, and so like we kind of man, like I spend so much time. Well, now with technology, I can go so that helps, but like I can kind of spend so much time just like learning about things. Especially me, I'm like a kind of I don't know, like a bigger fan in a sense where I kind of really I like to really dive into things, and so I'll if we're painting like I worked on Lupin, and of course, like that series takes place in Europe, in France, and so there was one. Now, oh, even when I worked on Conan, the same thing that took place in Europe during the time of I can't even think about it. But I think it was the time when they were. I might even be just getting my titles mixed up. What was I working on at the time? Something where they were like still building the bridge there. You know what that was? That was Black Butler. And for that I had to kind of just because I've never lived in Europe and I've never even been there, but I had to just kind of research the history because it was like more of a period piece, just the way all the buildings and things look. And that happens with all of our titles. Like we just kind of have to before we can even start, at least for background artists. Like I think more so with background artists, before we can really even start painting the backgrounds and getting the world to look right, we just have to do a lot of research. And you read about what happened there. If we're recreating a war or something, you read about the war, you read about the different characters that like the different actions and things that happened during this time. And then we read about then I'll go and look at cultural significant symbols and things like that. Like what kind of buildings and things were there at that time and why were they there? What did they look like? What was their significance? And so I just learned a lot, just by having to do that, just by having to paint backgrounds. I think it's like a secondary plus, just kind of this yeah, it's like I mean, I guess you don't have to do so much research if you wanted to. You could just like take a picture and copy it. But I feel that we can. One of the things that helps us to really get that realism is diving in and learning about what it is that we're about to do. That's like learning more about the subject that we're about to put on the screen. So,
Wow, that's dope. That's really cool that you were able to learn about the world while creating world at the same exact time. Something that not a lot of people can do, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But Arthur, I think that's all that we have for today. It was nice having you on Office Hours. Great talking to you. Where can they find you at?
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. And so yeah, our company's name is D'Art Shtaijo, so DART SHTAJIO, and pretty much you can search that name, that title, like anywhere. So on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. If you just type in D'Art Shtaijo, all of our our pages will pop up. Please click like and follow. And if you're on YouTube, ring the bell. Yes. But yes, that's where you can find us. And if you're ever in Japan, you can find me here.
Oh, bet. And as always, if you, yeah, of course, we got to pull up. But as always, you know where to find us at Office Hours, OFFICEHOURS podcast, no O in the hours. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all that. So go check us out. It was great having you, and have a good day.
All right, you guys, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Peace.
Peace.
I'm going UCLA.